Hi guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Brown Bread. This is basically a new IP that I'm creating, wherein I try to bring in people who are essentially either the founders, startup enthusiasts, or any kind of professionals to share their experiences, their learnings, so that you guys can basically have a more smoother ride whenever you're trying to build something or just explore new career options. And today, for the same reason, we have a really special guest. His name is Ashay. He has really done some amazing work in his space. He has basically founded this incredible sneaker brand called Thaely, wherein he literally makes sneakers out of recycled plastic. The more interesting part about that is that he has actually founded this brand over here in India, but majority of his sales actually happens in US and all across the globe. So yes, that's Ashay, guys. And yeah, over to you. Hi Ashay, how have you been?
Hi, I've been great. Thank you for having me.
Great, man. So before we actually start, and of course, like the whole idea is to know more about you and your experiences. But for the people who maybe don't know about your brand, can you like just give us a brief overview about what Thaily is all about exactly?
Sure. So Thaeli is of course, Hindi word for plastic bags.
Yeah.
And as the name suggests, we make sneakers from waste plastic bags. And so I invented this fabric that's called Thaeli. It's a leather replacement, but it's made entirely out of waste plastic bags without the use of any chemicals.
Okay.
And that's what we use to make the shoes. And they're entirely recycled, 100% vegan. And yeah, that's that.
So you basically went through the entire R&D process to actually make a fabric out of recycled plastic,
Right.
and that
Yeah.
was all you.
Yeah.
That's a great job, man. Like this is literally, honestly, this is revolutionary. But yeah, let's dive deep into you as a founder. Let's start off like maybe with your childhood, if that's something that you would be willing to share. Like how
Sure.
did you grow up, and what were the ideas? Like were you creatively more inclined, or the whole growing up process?
Right. I grew up in Navi Mumbai,
Okay.
and my mom used to actually run waste management plant in our neighborhood, and she'd made a system where she would also sort of teach other people to start small scale waste management plants for their housing complexes and like their localities. So I've sort of seen the problem of plastic waste firsthand. So she was more into wet waste, which is
Okay.
like food waste or vegetable waste, things like that. But there really was not much of a solution for the plastic waste at that point. Um, you know, I think the statistic still is that only 1% of plastic waste is actually recycled. So rest of it just ends up in landfills or our oceans.
Yeah.
And plastic bags have typically been a problem that hasn't been addressed as
Yeah.
such. Whenever you see sort of rack pickers or
Yeah.
waste collection people, you always see them collect plastic bottles,
Yeah.
but you don't really see them collect plastic bags. And the
True.
reason for that is that there just wasn't a monetary value attached to them
Yeah.
because nobody
Yeah.
was really recycling them. So there was no need to collect them,
Sure.
right? So it was a pretty big menace. And
Yeah.
once plastic bags, they're mistaken for food by many animals, like
Yeah.
cattle and turtles and dolphins and all kinds of it causes all kinds of problems.
True.
So yeah, and then I've always been interested in sneakers as well. I've been
Yeah.
like a sneakerhead for a very long time. Um, and I don't know if I would call myself like the typical sneakerhead. Like
Yeah.
I've not been like, oh, I've won, every single drop. You know, I
Yeah.
I I think I have a pretty niche interest in sneakers. I like sneakers that are, a little more unconventional and
Sure.
interesting.
Sure.
Uh, and I was always drawn to like the design side of things.
Yeah. Okay.
So I studied footwear design
Okay.
in New York, and then I did my degree in business, and I got investment in college, and that's how I started Thaly.
That's amazing, Ashay. But my actual like I it's really intriguing, and I really want to know this. How did you come up with this thought that maybe even plastic bags can get recycled into probably making a fabric out of it or something of that sort? Like, how did you get into it like that?
Right. So, at first it started out as a design project for my
Sure.
portfolio. I was working on a lot of personal projects, and the goal initially was just to find a way to recycle plastic bags
Okay.
because, they're apart from sort of burning them
Yeah.
or just dumping them in landfills, or some sort of a very drawn out chemical process. There wasn't really a way to properly dispose or recycle plastic bags, because they're very difficult to work with because they're
Yeah.
very easy to burn,
Yeah.
and melting them down is very difficult. um, so that was the first step. So I had a very rough um, prototype ready of
Okay.
the fabric. Um, you know, at, at the time it was quite different from what we have right now.
Sure.
Um, but I had studied footwear design, so I knew exactly what is needed for footwear. Um, so I made a prototype with it, and it was quite promising. And
Okay.
then I we had this like Shark Tank like competition in our university,
Okay.
and I presented the prototype and a whole business plan and everything around it, and I actually ended up winning,
That's
and I
that's amazing. That's amazing. But this
got
really
investment also. Yeah.
That's great, man. But this also intrigues me. So, because you are someone who designed the entire process and everything, do you have patents also granted with you for this whole process and everything?
So getting a patent is a very sort of long, drawn out process that takes
Yeah.
like 5 years.
But have you
5 years.
applied?
We've not applied as of now. I
Okay.
did get into it, and then I just like we just got into the business of selling shoes. Like
But see, that's something that I would highly recommend, dude.
I
You
got,
should do it for sure.
yeah. No, I will do it eventually. It's just
Like, let's
at the
just get the
moment,
application, man.
yeah, at the moment it's like a trade secret. But that's that's the thing about patents. I think people have a pretty wrong idea of what patents are good for.
Yeah.
Okay, like yes, if you want to raise investment and all of that, yeah, sure, get a patent and all of that. But if you're just talking about like day-to-day business,
Yeah.
okay, and let's say I have a patent for this process,
Yeah.
but then tomorrow some guy wants to replicate this process. The patent is not like physically stopping him um from replicating this idea. In fact, when you register a patent, you have to sort of outline the
Yeah.
entire process, right?
Yeah.
So you're giving people like a blueprint of how to do it exactly, right?
That's a
Uh,
really interesting insight, man.
yeah,
That's
and
not something
and
that a lot of people actually talk about.
yeah. So and then it's not like it's physically stopping him. He can
Yeah.
still go ahead and replicate it entirely.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I would maybe hear about it and then sue him in court. But
Yeah.
then you know how lawsuits
Of
work in
course, of
India.
course, of course.
And then after like 10 years down the line, maybe he might stop.
Yeah.
uh and then if it's international, it's even more sort of difficult and
Yeah.
expensive. um and it doesn't take a lot, like like you see this in the like the drug industry all the time, where
Okay.
like a pharmaceutical company makes a drug, let's say in Europe or anywhere, and then a company in India just changes like a little percentage of it,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and then that's allowed,
Yeah.
even though they have a patent and all of that, and like,
Yeah.
they have like international patents
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I don't know, people just have like a misconception of how um you know patents work, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, like, to an investor, sure, that maybe is a very big deal, but
Yeah.
even that, I feel like it's it's sort of losing its importance a little bit.
Sure.
you know.
Sure. Makes a lot of sense, man. Makes a lot of sense. Uh, with that being said, of course, like my next question was supposed to be all about the challenges that you face, like from 0 to 1
Yeah,
process. But I personally think that that is something that we should actually do it maybe in a live session so that we can all obviously interact with the audience as well. So maybe
yeah,
let's plan an Instagram live. And for the people who are actually
sure.
over here, do connect with us across on our socials so that you stay tuned with and you get to know more about it in person kinda, and you can also ask a couple of questions over there. With that being said, next up is I want to understand your idea of actually, so obviously the idea came in from sustainability as like the prime quotient, right?
Yeah,
Now turning that into a business model, how did it all come in place?
right. So like I said, I first raised investment.
Yeah.
That was in 2020. That was about
Okay, sorry,
um
sorry to cut you over here. The
yeah.
investment was for, the fabric that you created, or you already had that model of selling sneakers or making sneakers out of that fabric?
No, it was for Thaly. It was like I had the whole business plan ready.
Okay.
It was for Thaly. It was,
Okay.
for that. Of course, we did look more attractive to investors because, I made the whole fabric and all of
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
but it was purely for Thaly.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so we did that, and then that was in 2020, and of course, I had pretty much a production ready,
Sure.
sample ready of the shoe.
Sure.
Then COVID happened.
Yeah.
Uh, so for like, mm, I would say at least a year and a half, I couldn't launch the product because, factories were shut,
Yeah.
and, it was also our first order with this factory, and it was a relatively small order of like, um, 800 pairs,
Okay.
sorry, 1500 pairs.
Okay.
And, you know, that's not a lot for most shoe
Yeah.
factories,
Yeah.
right? Uh, so, so they were more focused on the brands that they already have an existing relationship with, because there was a big backlog during COVID, obviously,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They had to process those orders and then
The
finally get
larger orders, or like orders
exactly,
from like the giants from the industry.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, so that was a big hindrance for us. And then another thing that happened during COVID was, um, recycling and waste collection pretty much entirely stopped, right? Because it
Yeah.
was dangerous to do so. Um, and but one thing I had realized, which I was very surprised about, is that even though waste plastic bags are so prevalent,
Yeah.
I wasn't able to just go to the market and be like, let me buy a ton of waste plastic bags.
Yeah.
Because nobody was collecting them because
Yeah.
nobody was recycling them, right? So I worked with a waste management plant in Gurgaon,
Okay.
and this, it was a pretty innovative waste management plant. Like, they were ethical.
Sure.
We still work with them. They're called Scrap now,
Okay.
SKRAPP. And the people that collect the waste for them, they're like full-time employees. Like,
Okay.
unlike, otherwise, where they're they're paid per kg that they
Yeah.
collect and
Yeah.
things like that. So it's like, and they're given all the like proper safety gear,
Sure.
gloves, and like, another issue was that even though we bought all of these things like gloves and masks and boots and all of that,
Yeah.
and we had like enough for all the waste collectors, the education part of it was missing,
Yeah.
right? Even though we got all of these things, they were not using them. um because they were just like, oh no, it's way too hot, we don't want to wear boots and gloves and things like that. But then no, we had to educate them and be like,
Yeah.
no, have to do so. So that was a challenge. Finally, we everything sort of fell in place, and then July 2021 we launched.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. So I happened to actually get hold of, I think, a pair from like the first batch, and I remember
Yeah,
at that point in time, your website used to mark prices everything in dollars,
yeah,
right? And it never used to get converted in, because I was obviously using it from India. So
yeah,
I actually thought that, someone really dug deep into like the nooks and corners of the entire world, and then came up with with this word called Thaely. But
yeah,
essentially, the brand is probably owned by maybe a Gora from US or something like that. That was like
yeah,
my initial idea, and of course, like
yeah.
even the perception was uh, amazing, and I'm pretty sure the reception also is, like, based on numbers also, that is something that you might be able to tell us more about it. But on that piece, I really want to understand, like, how did you actually position yourself in the market? Is it still going on? Are you still in that whole process of positioning yourself in a certain manner in the market? And what is it that basically makes you like the creme de la creme of maybe being that sneaker brand from India?
So I mean, initially we were sort of forced, so we, I a lot of it was just done by me initially. I was sort of handling the Shopify and all of that
Yeah.
stuff. And I knew that because of the price point, we're not going to do that many sales in India. And if I have the pricing in INR,
Yeah.
uh, my main market, which I knew at the time, is going to be Europe and
Yeah.
America and the Middle East, is sort of going to be alienated, and
Yeah.
they're not going to be comfortable buying in INR, right? A lot
Yeah.
of cards also don't work like that.
But does
Uh,
that also crack this whole idea within the Indian masses as well, that because they perceive that you are probably an international brand, they also tend to buy from you? Does that also work?
no, honestly, people were just annoyed because it was the currency was in USD, and
Yeah.
then a lot of people, their cards were just not working.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is technically an international purchase,
Yeah.
right? So after a few months, actually not after a few months, I think after almost 2 years. Um,
Yeah.
so like just last year we started this, where we did a Thaily.in,
Yeah.
and we had the price in INR, and if you're logging in from India, it's in rupees, and it's you can just you can do a GPay also,
Yeah.
and you can buy the shoes.
Yeah.
Uh,
So that's a quick
yeah,
plug for all you guys. For anyone who doesn't know about like what the brand stands for and what is it that they're actually bringing to the market, go check it out at Thaily.in.
yes,
That's a quick plug. But
yeah,
yeah, man, that's really amazing, and I'm pretty sure that this is going to scale, at a crazy manner from India,
thank.
of course, and across the globe. But wherever it is today, what do you think has really gotten you there, like wherever it is today? I obviously, like, about the nitty-gritties of the economies and the numbers, we'll get to that later on. But wherever it is today, what is it that got you over there?
I think there's a few things. One is like our story is very impactful.
Yeah.
We've also presented it in a way where people understand it
Yeah.
and they connect with it. Apart from that, I think our design language has been pretty on point.
Yeah.
Uh, Also, we've not been very sort of like we've not compromised on the sustainable aspects of
True.
and We've also not tried to be like, okay, let's try to sell as many shoes as possible. Let's price it at like
Yeah.
1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, because like that has not been my goal. It's
Okay.
not been to sell as many shoes as possible.
The idea is to sell the thought, right?
Yeah, it's, and like I want this to be a global brand. I don't want it to be, I want it to be at a price where it even makes sense for like, in like in Europe now
Yeah.
and Australia, we have a
Yeah.
distributor. If I was selling my shoes for whatever, 3,000 rupees, that's, what, like $50.
Yeah.
It just isn't enough money for them to take up distribution for that product and sell
True.
it abroad, you know. And similarly for India as well. Like if you see a lot of these new D2C brands,
Yeah.
um, they have like pretty low prices. They're always on discount. We're never on discount also. That's
Yeah.
another thing. These brands are always on discount. Um, they're not physically available anywhere. And there's a reason.
That's actually where I wanted to get
Yeah.
into. Like the very next question was, uh, so for the people who don't know, even I'm a sneakerhead. I've been into the space for literally its inception, and hence obviously we connected also. Uh, and we happened to have met at a very recent event, a sneaker event that happened, and that's where we had this conversation. That's where I got to know that Ashay basically uh, is trying to create a whole, like a crazy level of distribution channel for his brand in an era where literally everyone thinks about running a D2C brand. And of course, your product is perfect for even a D2C approach as well. But
Mm.
what is it that that triggered you to be like, okay, I won't go the conventional way, or like some, like in a way wherein every single brand is moving towards, and let me just go the traditional route, which is how like probably a Nike or Adidas was built.
Right. So I would say like shoes is a thing that you have to see it in person.
Yeah.
Like there's unless you're like a very uh you're sort of like a very big sneakerhead where the fit and what the shoe itself is, the quality of the shoe doesn't matter to you, and you're like, okay, this thing is hyped and I have to get it.
Sure.
Right? Like that's what happened with like Yeezy pods. Like, people
Yeah.
didn't care what they look like. They were $20. They were
Initially, they were like about $200, and then
they
they
were two
dropped.
hundred dollars. Yeah,
Yeah.
then they dropped to 20. They took about like 6 months to dispatch, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that only works for you. That would only work if I was like Kanye, in one
Yeah.
of, but I,
But even about the brands like say Gully Labs today,
yeah,
right? They're like more so they're only D2C at the moment, or maybe
yeah,
available at a couple of stores here and there. So it obviously, like, it's working out for them, and of
yeah,
course it also makes sense that
yeah,
the price points and the kind of TG they are
yeah.
targeting, and it's completely different. But
No, I would say we're very comparable to Gully Labs. We have pretty much the same price if you think about it.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I think 7,800 or something like that.
yeah,
We
yeah,
are
yeah.
8,000. Of course, we have boots that go up to 200 as well. But I
Yeah.
would say when it comes to price point, we're very similar. In my opinion, it's just, you know, customers need to see your product physically, especially a product like us where it's made from
True.
recycled fabrics and all of that. So
And of course sizing as well, because you've got to
sizing
understand
also,
how
yeah,
comfortable the shoe is.
exactly. So, people have a little bit of hesitation that, oh, this is made from recycled material. So is it going to be like a regular shoe? Is it going to
Yeah.
perform? Is it going to be comfortable? Is it going to look nice in person? So
But that's also like for the people who are watching this, is it true to size?
yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Okay, so basically anyone and everyone, whatever size you use for your Nike shoes, that's pretty much the exact sizing that Tele follows, right? more or
Yeah, so
less.
we have a pretty accurate size chart where we give
Sure.
like centimeter sizing and all of that.
Sure.
We have a guide on how you can measure your own foot. A lot of times, even though we say true to size and stuff,
Yeah.
people just have no idea what their size is
True.
also.
True.
Like even when I used to buy Nikes or Adidas or any of that, I was really into shoes. So the size didn't really matter to me. It was, I'm a size 9, 8.5 to 9.
Yeah.
I would be okay with buying 8, 9, 10, even 11,
Yeah. Yeah.
as
Yeah.
long as I
But
get
I think that
who
that
I want.
usually happens with sneakerheads because they're comfortable
Yeah,
wearing a size up or a size down.
exactly. So
But
that
for
is
people
a lot of our
who just
market,
want
right?
it for the utility of it, of course they want
Yeah,
comfort.
exactly.
Yeah.
But that is a big part of our market, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's one of the reasons why I believe that being physically available at all of these stores is important.
Yeah.
Also, I think positioning is also important. Like, okay, you're next to Adidas, you're next to
Yeah.
Nike, you're next to Asics.
Yeah.
So people, and then you're not like a cheaper alternative,
Yeah.
yeah,
Almost the same price.
basically, or
At times
even
even higher.
at times even higher. So it's uh, that is I think important, I guess.
Yeah.
People need to be able to compare that, okay,
Yeah.
the quality is just as
True.
good. In fact, this might look nicer also,
True.
you
True.
know.
True.
Um, so yeah, that's one
That's
of the
that's
reasons why.
that's great, man. Now, I would first like to take permission from you. Can we talk about the economic aspects of your business? And
Sure,
would you be comfortable sharing some numbers?
sure.
So
So
let me start
yeah,
off first of all with with the funding rounds that you've had. Of course, you've told us that it was more like a pre-seed that you raised during your college days itself. But
yeah,
since then, have you raised other rounds as well? And
yeah.
how does the whole process of raising money goes around?
Right. So I think first round, that was the pre-seed round I already talked
Yeah,
about. That was in my college through like a Shark Tank competition.
yeah.
And I got angel investment. That was about $150,000 in total.
Okay,
Um, and then we did the second round. That was in 2023,
sure.
uh, early 2023, so just last year. Um, that was about $1 million.
Okay.
Um, the INR fell quite a bit, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it started out as $1 million, but it's gone down. But yeah, so that's that. That was through Anand Mahindra's family office and
Okay.
Metro Brands, the
Yeah,
listed company.
yeah.
And yeah, now we're also sort of in a round right now, but it's less for funding, more of getting a strategic partner on board,
Yeah.
and that is what we're working towards at the moment.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And what would be like the dynamics or like the percentages, if we have to say, like how would you like, if you can share like the split of your sales, not really numbers, but say how much percentage of your total inventories get sold in say US and then in India and Europe and all of that.
I'd say 70, 60 to 70% is international.
Okay.
The rest is in India. It used to be
But how do
much
you,
less before.
so that again,
Yeah.
how do you market yourself, in US or in Europe or something like that by staying over here in India?
So in Europe, we have a distributor now.
Okay.
So like in India, by the end of this year, we're going to be available in a bunch of stores,
Yeah.
physical stores in Europe. In America, we don't have a distributor at the moment. We're just doing, just basically doing online.
Yeah.
Um, we do it through a bunch of stuff. We do performance marketing.
Sure.
We do, so like we did a video with Business Insider. and we keep doing some,
Basically, the whole idea is, for us to share it with people, that how is it that they can actually build a global brand like that.
right.
Yeah. So interesting, man. Like, super interesting. I would have loved to talk more about your profitability aspects of it, and some advice for the new gen entrepreneurs, specifically who want to build, say, sneaker brands and things like that. And as I said previously, also talking more about the challenges that you faced. I think that would be more interesting to do when we do it, like maybe in a live session or something like that, wherein people
Sure.
can also interact. So
Yeah.
I personally suggest everyone to go ahead, follow across all our socials, and stay tuned for a live session, which we should be able to do like as soon as we go live with this video, maybe within a day or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
And
maybe we can do it in person also,
oh yeah, for sure, that would be interesting, man.
right?
That would be
And
lovely. Probably do it
oh,
in a studio of yours, and maybe even
yeah,
showcase a couple of your new
yeah,
projects coming
yeah.
up.
Since we last met, we
Yeah,
met at Mids and Lows,
yeah,
and launching at Mids and Lows next week.
that's
Um,
amazing. Let's do it over there.
yeah, maybe we can do it at Mids and Lows,
Yeah, that's amazing. Absolutely. Like, Vikram is a dear friend, so
Yeah,
that would be
what
very
a cool
interesting.
guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, super interesting, man. Thanks for joining over here, and thanks for being a part of Brown Bread. The whole idea is to bring in the Browns, building up some amazing stuff, and hopefully also to connect, some global pioneers. I have, a really, really, uh, how should I say, a legendary artist coming in very, very soon on this whole format. So stay tuned, guys. Follow across socials. That's Ashay, and thank you so much for joining in, man. Means a
Thank
lot.
you. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Cheers, man. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
So yes, that was Ashay, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you do the needful, like, share, subscribe, and all of that. And yeah, I'll see you guys very, very soon.